Hello everybody and welcome to JSY Talks Football. We're going to give a bit of a in-depth review on all of our opinions on the Leeds versus West Brom game. Clearly it wasn't a great result for Leeds United again on the road. Before we do get into this, can you smash a like on this video, subscribe to all these guys' channels, and we'll get into it. Starting with you, Stu, what were your opinions first, just on the game on a whole?
Copy and paste of the Preston game for me. I thought the first half we did slightly better. We did slightly better, but the second half just copy and paste the Preston game. That's my short thoughts.
Evie?
Yeah, the same really. I think it was poor, unimaginative. We lacked any kind of drive, creativity, passion, clinical edge. We weren't at the races in any way, shape, or form. Do I think we were unlucky with a couple of penalty decisions? Absolutely. I think that there's a good call for 2, if not 3 penalties with a later on handball in the second half. The Nonto one, 100% penalty. So, but in all honesty, I don't think we really deserved anything from that game. One shot on target, with the amount of, everybody goes on about how impressive our front four is, and we manage one shot on target. It's just not good enough.
I agree. Donny?
I think you made too many changes last night.
Yeah.
We've all cried out for it, but I don't think I expected the amount that he made last night. I were a bit shocked at that. When Stu sent me team sheet, I were a bit like, wow.
Apart from the 2 forced ones, I think he made one too many after that.
Yeah, agree.
I agree with that.
I wouldn't have put Gruev in, I'd have put Kamara or Green.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really do.
I don't mind Gruev being on, but I would have then dropped Ampadu and had Kamara or Gray as well, because Gruev does need minutes, because if we don't give him minutes, how can we expect him to cover for Ampadu? So I do think that if necessary, you put Ampadu on later on if he's having a bit of a fluffer kind of thing. But I don't think he didn't do too much wrong, in my opinion. He's not as fast as Ampadu, but I think he offered a good range of long passes. He's quite decent in tackles and things like that. So I was okay with him being on. But yeah, I just... Oh, has somebody got telly on or background noise?
Not me, I've turned down.
No, not me neither.
No, not me.
I can hear somebody talking.
Minutes was...
My daughter's just been brought back. My granddaughter's just been brought back, bless her.
Oh, bless her.
Surely, yeah. We, first 15 minutes I thought, yeah, we look all right here. And then that was it. It's like if we don't score after 15 minutes, we lose some sort of ideas to what to do. We can't play like that for 15 and then for 75 minutes to just switch off and be so lethargic, players walking around, not look like they've even put a shift in. If I come away from that West Brom game, but we've give 110% and we've come off that pitch and we've been played off the park, I can almost take that as,
Yeah, you kind of hold your hands up and say fair dues.
But when we don't even, sometimes it looks like we even try, like we're bothered. I would be bothered. We're now 6 points behind Southampton and West Brom right up our arses with only 3 points, behind them. What is it with players? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I want you guys to give me your thoughts on Perot. Danny?
Perot, I want to play in a low block. Any game that's going to be a low block, I wouldn't play Perot at all. Put Joseph in there, put Bamford in there, that's going to occupy defenders, drag the defenders out, leave space for everybody else to run into. Perot's not that man.
What's gone wrong though? Because at Swansea, he seemed to, get 20 goals and, everybody's raving about him when he comes to Leeds, and then he's come to Leeds and it just hasn't quite materialised for me. I think he's quite a lazy player at times. Evie?
No, I agree. It was I said the other day the fact that we need, if you go on holiday to Spain one year and you go on holiday to Greenland the next, you're not going to take the same clothes. And it's the same with football games. You have to judge each game as an individual game. So for me, you choose different players that suit the predicted lineup of your opposition. And for me, Farke doesn't do that. He plays the exact same way regardless. And then when his tactics are nullified or the personnel are nullified, he doesn't seem to have a reply. The only option he has is 6 attackers on, 3-1-6. So and that's not a plan. It just doesn't, it's worked once. I think we've done it 5 times now and it's worked once. So and for me, we only actually came into the game at about 85 minutes. We actually looked in the last in added time, and from the 85th minute onwards, we looked like we wanted something from the game. But where was that hunger? After the first 15 minutes and up until the 85th minute, the team could have just gone and had a cup of tea and come back and said, right, should we restart it at 85 minutes because we'll turn up then. But I've seen a few comments online. I don't know whether any of you guys have seen it about, and I didn't notice it myself watching it because I was pacing back and forwards. But apparently Rutter was yawning going down the tunnel at half time, I think.
Stu noticed that. Where you gone? You've muted, Stu.
Oh, mute.
Mute.
You muted, Stu.
You've muted. Somebody put it in chat for him. I'll put it in chat for him. Do you know Stu picked up on that either because even he said it when we were watching game last night? Is he yawning?
Yeah.
That's not very good, is it? At all. It don't come across professional. It don't come across like they're even bothered. I'm just waiting to see if Stu's picked up on this. 1 minute. He's still not picked up on it. He's getting frustrated, bless him. Yeah, it's one of those that you think, are they bothered? Are they interested? We go from a Rolls-Royce performance last Saturday, which nobody could criticise. They all played as a team. To 2, for me, very individual performances, Evie. I don't know about yourself.
No, I think that we've gone from, for me, and I don't mean to sound negative because that's, I'm realistic, but I'm usually on the positive side. But for me, Ipswich seems to have been the blip, as in, we're in a slump. We've had no win in, was it 5 games now? 4 games?
Yeah.
Or one win in 5. Mm-hmm. So that, how on earth anybody can argue the point that, we're, promotion ready kind of thing, because I think we just seem to rely on the fact that everybody's told all of these players that they're amazing, but until Jer said last night, what is it? Hard work. What was the saying that he said? Hard work overcomes talent when talent doesn't work hard, or something along those lines. And last night, West Brom played harder than us and wanted it more than us. And it doesn't. The problem is people are saying, oh, we should have got Corberan in, but it doesn't take a great tactician to figure out all you have to do is play a low block and all of a sudden we're stumped kind of thing. We don't have ideas, and I just. They need slapping, because it in my opinion, we should have wanted that game because it was a must-win game, and that for me is the first must-win game that we've not won this season. And before I'd said that maybe we need to get used to the playoffs being the target, and I'm not trying to be negative or say that we couldn't get automatic, but maybe we need to prepare ourselves as a fan base, as a club, as a team, that playoffs, we've never done it with this team before. We've never attempted it with any of these players before. So we don't have to be negative. I understand there's a lot of precedent for that it hasn't gone right pretty much ever for Leeds. I get that. I understand that. But past performances aren't necessarily a prediction of future performances, especially when none of this team or manager have done it before. But last night really worried me because of the fact that if we didn't turn up in, for me, a must-win game, because they're going to be in and around us. So it was a 6-pointer essentially, and they've got 4 out of the 6 points this season from us. And oh, there's a lot of background noise.
Is that Stu? Are you back with us, Stu? He's still not with us. Come out, Stu, and go back in. Try come out of it, then come back into it. It might. That's it. So Leeds' last 7 games, if you look, we have picked up 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, in his last 7 games.
You see, I think people are finding out us in this formation.
Yeah, we need to change it.
We need to change it. I'd go out of possession 4-5-1, in possession 4-4-2.
I agree with that. Sometimes
you know what I mean?
Football.
That's then we're flooding the midfield. They've got to try to get past us. We've always got that spare man over. In the 4-5-1.
And we've got a lot of pace. So if we do play like that, then we can do that. You know, because we've got the personnel that will just fly and absolutely, you know, flabbergast them. You know, we'll go out there and absolutely smash them. But we can't let them pass in the midfield. And for me, the 2 in the midfield isn't working. It doesn't work against a low block, because when you're coming up against it, you've usually got 4 or 5 in the midfield of the opposition, which means they can just completely overrun us in the midfield. And then all of a sudden you're asking, you know, I know obviously Gray wasn't playing yesterday, which I was pleased to see, because I know some people disagreed with me, but I think Gray hasn't lost confidence, and that's brilliant. But why should we give him the opportunity to lose confidence at 17? We need to protect him physically and mentally, because he does have a good mentality. He does have a Leeds mentality. So why do we want to damage that? You know, we want to protect that, because we're going to need it later on in the season. We're going to need it when, you know, we're either dicing with top 2. I'm not saying that it's fully gone. I'm really not, because I do think there's a lot of, you know, we've still got half a season to play. There's a lot of twists and turns that can still come about. I think Leicester are out of touch, just because even if they went on a terrible run, they're 17 points clear of us. Like, for me, and I know this may sound a bit dramatic, but we lose that Leicester game and we win the Stoke, we win the Sunderland, we win the West Brom, we win the Coventry game. I'd rather have those points than the points against Leicester, because we stopped ourselves going 17 points away from them in October to now just be 17 points away from them in December. So I don't get it. You know, what was the point, really?
Leicester are totally gone now. They won't win. They're going to win it easy. Southampton are going to finish second. We need to win a couple of games playing this. Otherwise, we'll drop out of it.
I mean, this is quite a thingy. Daniel Farke, a lot in his press conferences, goes on about August. Now, if you take August out of the equation completely, we have dropped 26 points since August. Now, for me, that just ain't good enough. Those 26 points get us top.
Yeah.
If we won them games. And that's at home, that's away as well. That's draws and losses. But you take August out of the equation, so we don't even mention August. That's still 26 points dropped.
Yeah. Right now, we're 15th in the form table.
That's not automatic, is it? That's not performance-wise.
It's barely even playoffs at this moment in time. The only thing that's given me hope is the fact that there's still almost half a season to go, and we've got January transfer window to go, which has now become absolutely pivotal. That for me is the turning point of whether we're even challenging for playoffs or whether we're staying in the championship. It's not even, I'm not saying we can't get top two, but the chances of that happening are now much slimmer than they were on the 30th of November. Mm-hmm. So, for me, January is about whether we can get playoffs or not, and it's huge, absolutely huge. I'm not saying they have to buy loads of players or even acquire loads of players. It's about getting the right players. We need that key to unlock these low blocks, and right now we don't have it.
Danny?
How many players even do you think we're playing?
I think we'll definitely use up the loan places, so that's at least 2. And it depends on whether we sell anybody in January. Like maybe Joffy. Like maybe Paveda. Obviously he's only got half a year left on his contract, so he could sign a pre-contract deal or something like that when you've only got a certain amount of time. So we could get like a bit of money, like as a goodwill gesture, essentially, from that. But I do think we'll buy, but I think the 49ers are shrewd at their business. I think over the summer, I think we spent about 3 million, something like that, because of the loan deals, because of we got money in for Adams in the end. We got the really shoddy amount, but we got 3 million in for whatchamacallit, Rodrigo. We sold. Who did we sell? We sold Roberts as well. That wasn't for much. So we did get little bits of money. Obviously, we'll have 1 million coming in for the 15-year-old as well.
It's more than 1 million. It's 5 million.
They're saying upwards of 5 million. I've seen about 1.7 million.
On Joe's channel the other day, it's gone up. It's 5 million and over.
Well, fingers crossed that is the case then. But I wonder whether that's made up of a lot of add-ons. So I don't think we'll ever see that. And if we do see that, that means that we've actually sold a player that we should never have sold.
We're dying out for an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Is there a sell-on clause to Kelvin Phillips if he gets moved on in January?
I don't think there is.
No, in the previous regime, I doubt it.
Right. I know we got money for it if he won FA Cup, League Cup into Europe and stuff like that. But I don't think there's a sell-on clause.
Yeah, because I think we wanted the cash up front, and I think we sold him cheaper in order to get the cash up front.
Do you not think it missed a player last night to grab it by its scruff at neck and say, look, this is what we need to do. We need to win something. I mean, Cooper's known for, having quite a strong in changing rooms. For me, there were nobody that did that last night, that took it by its scruff at neck and said, look, we need to do this. We need to get his arse in shape, rock its arses and move. The one none of that for me. It was so lackluster, like it didn't matter. I mean, if you looked at Carlos last night, he was on that sideline all game, shouting, barking orders. Barky didn't do a lot there for me last night, neither were he. He wasn't a driving force behind it. And then you get to 56th, 7th minute, and you're looking at all these players coming off and players coming on, you're thinking, what are we going with here? A 3-5-1, 3-5-1? Because you're putting 6 attackers on, but then they're all stuck in the middle. So when they are coming crosses either side, they're all clumped together. Or you've got Bamford that's straying miles offside. And there were like 4 offsides I think got called in that game. And I think 3 of them were Bamford. I'm not digging Bamford out for that, but
No. If you look at them Bamford things, 2 of them should have had the ball played to them a lot earlier, and they wouldn't have been offside.
Yeah.
The ball would have been played to him earlier. It wouldn't have been offside. 2 of them.
But you saw him with his hands gesturing a bit quicker, didn't he? He actually signalled his hands to be quicker. I think Millet's pace all in that, all throughout that second half. If I'm honest, everything was done slow, lackadaisical, and we just didn't know. Like Jess says earlier on, we ran out of ideas. Even with the 6 attackers on, we ran out of ideas. They were all getting in each other's way as well. That didn't help.
Yeah, I saw that. It just looked, like.
But it can work. It can work, and it almost worked today. I don't know whether any of you. I only listened to it. I didn't watch the second half. But Chelsea-Luton game earlier on, Luton did basically what Farke did or has done last night and in previous games, where he took off defensively minded players and put more attacking players on. And they nearly got it. In fact, if one of the goals hadn't been ruled for offside, they'd have got a draw out of Chelsea today, and they were 3-0 down at 70-odd minutes.
In that game, Luton's wingers stayed on the wing. They weren't cut in.
No, but that's what I mean is it can be done if it, for me, they don't know what they're doing when they do that. Whereas Luton did know what to do. When they went to that formation, they knew what they were doing, and people were getting in the box, which meant that the wingers, like you said, Danny, could cross into the box and there was people there. We were just throwing balls from side to side, and there was nobody in the middle to actually aim for, so it just got booted out every time. Whereas Luton did it, and they exploited Chelsea. And we could have done that had we have been actually aware of what that formation does. Because for me, none of them actually know what position they should be playing in that formation. And it's only worked once because it was they'd taken Norwich had taken off their attackers and had just gone defensive. So it just didn't. We sprung it by surprise in that game, and that was the only reason we actually won it, was because they'd been forced into making all of their changes, so they couldn't make another change, but it hasn't worked since. So if he's going to do that, he needs to drill it into the players.
What we need if he's going to do that is take the wingers off the right to cut in, like Somerville, Dan James, and play people that's going to stay out the wing to cross the balls in. We don't need to be having people cutting in the too many boxes.
Yeah, I think.
Why did he take Spence off?
I thought he had a good game. Shoes, didn't he? I really did. If he wouldn't have been online, he cleared one off at line. I thought he had a decent game until he came off, and he looked a bit bewildered when he got taken off. If anybody else caught that?
Yeah, I did.
Your opinion?
For me, I could understand Byram coming off because he's coming back from fitness, but as soon as he took Spence off, for me, I just thought, what's the point? Like, if I'm Spence, I'm annoyed because he's waited all this time to actually get game time in his actual position, and he takes him off, and I'm like, he hadn't done anything wrong. The whole team wasn't playing great, so I'm not going to single out Spence and say he didn't have a good game, because he kept us in that game for a lot of it, with and as did Rodon a couple of times as well. And Cooper didn't do anything wrong either for me.
No, Cooper was good. Cooper was solid.
I thought he had a good game for 90 minutes.
When they took Spence off and took Byram off, on the left hand side they had Anthony and Somerville. And on the right hand side, it was just Dan James.
Yeah, that is true.
Dan James.
Do we rely on?
I'm back.
Do we rely on 2 players too much in Somerville and Nutter? Do we rely on them to do? Because if you take them 2 away from Leeds United, if you take them out of the squad, I don't think we've got anything. We don't offer anything.
No.
You see, Daniel Farke saying, "Oh, the players aren't tired. They aren't tired." They might not look tired, but mentally they might be tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
They can't do tests on that to say, oh, yeah, mentally tired.
that is very true.
You know what I mean?
Somerville for me were a bit petulant yesterday. I mean, how long did he stay on floor for when he got that tackle? And I'm not saying it didn't hit him on top of his shins and the protection with boots, shin pads, whatever. But if we'd have conceded from that, that's it wasn't going to boot it out West Brom, and it wanted a head injury, so referee doesn't have to stop the game.
No, exactly, and that's fine. I've got no issue with them not booting it out because I wouldn't want Leeds if it's not a head injury and the ref hasn't blown his whistle. The only thing that I was annoyed at was the fact that at one point, obviously, Rutter was down and Somerville were down, but Rutter got back up and fine. If you want to stay down, and yes, it will have hurt because it was studs, I think, on like the back of his Achilles or something, but he got up and was fine afterwards. So for me, if you're fine after that, like you're fine.
I watched the game last night, but I had Adam Pope's commentary on the radio as well at the same time. And Adam Pope said that Somerville stayed down longer to show the referee that they keep getting kicked up in air and everything else to prove the point.
I can see it. I can see the logic behind it because I think you're right. We do, our players, especially Somerville. I think between Somerville, Dan James, and Rutter, they've got battered all over, and Nonto at the beginning of the season as well. There's just doesn't seem to be a lot of protection for Leeds players anyway. Pirro hasn't, because Pirro backs out of every challenge that he goes near, so he never gets tackled.
That's the issue, I think.
I think Connor said it yesterday about Pirro. He's the only person who can go on the pitch and come off the pitch with a pure white T-shirt without a crease in it. It's the only player who can do it. And that's a concern.
Pirro always looks stoned for me.
That is very true, Donny. That is very true. But he
not that he is just for the YouTube algorithms.
Because for me, whether it's a striker or just off whatever he plays in this thing, he, as a striker, that's his so-called preferred. Whatever people's opinion on it is, he's not brave enough for me. He should be throwing himself in there and getting himself about a bit more than he does. He's at best sometimes. I think he's a lazy player. I want to see you tracking back, running back, sweat ringing off you when you come off that pitch and letting you know you've earned your money. And for me, in the last couple of games, he hasn't. I really, I'm being a bit disappointed with him, and I'd like to think now that we bring somebody in, because it's like you said in the other one we did with Stu. There's nobody there for competition for places, so for him, it's a bit arrogant in some ways. It doesn't matter, I'll play anywhere.
Do you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Rodrigo, which is why I think he needs to be played up front, because we got the best out of Rodrigo when he was played up front, and he's quite a similar profile. He doesn't press. He doesn't really do the midfield and linking things. He can link short passes, but he's not creative, and neither was Rodrigo. But when you put him up front, he knew where the back of the net was. And by constantly, I know they interchange a lot, Pirro and Rutter, but if you just had him leading the line and said, you know what, you don't run back, you don't track back, you don't get involved in tackles, so you just stay up at the top and we will build around you, and then we'll get you the ball and then you finish it off, then I actually think that we would be more productive. I think we're not playing to his attributes, and we're not gonna transform him. Like, I think Farke is good at enhancing what's already there, but he's not good at changing players. So whereas Bielsa could change a player, he created and molded Calvin Phillips into something that he'd never really played before. And, you look at Pablo. Imagine if we'd have got Pablo a few years earlier. Imagine how good you know, if Bielsa and Pablo had got together sooner, kind of thing, when Pablo was a little bit younger, he probably had the best days of his career whilst at Leeds, you know, but obviously he was just a little bit too old to go back into the Premier League. I know he'd been there before was he at Swansea?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So
So old to go back into the Premier League. Look at James Milner, 37, still doing it in the Premier League.
Yeah. But he's just
A machine.
something else, isn't he? Yeah, he's you know, they say Haaland's a machine, but he doesn't have anything on James Milner.
No, when he were at Liverpool, we lacked it. Tesco and he was top of everything.
I'm going to counteract your thing there, what you said about Perot and Rodrigo. Rodrigo had speed. Perot doesn't.
Yeah, I get that, but he also was very lazy for a long. He had the speed when he wanted to have the speed, but he didn't necessarily have the drive if things weren't going his way. So, and neither does Pirro. I'm not saying Pirro does, but both of them, when they want to, are lazy, kind of thing. Whereas Bielsa tried to play Rodrigo in the midfield and played Dan James up front instead of Rodrigo. I think there's a shout to say that if you swapped those two players round in that 21-22 season, then maybe Bielsa doesn't get sacked. Because maybe we actually score the goals instead of being battered 7-0 at Man City. Maybe we get a couple of goals back because of the fact that we've got an actual striker up front. And I know that obviously there's the big thing of Pirro's not an actual out-and-out number 9, but he's the nearest thing we have to an out-and-out number 9 who can score goals. Bamford, if he could score goals, is the ideal number 9 for this system, but he doesn't know where the goal is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
last night, if them balls had been played earlier into Bamford, he'd have scored last night.
What do you think, Danny?
He'd have scored last night.
What have we seen in the last 2 years to say that even with the correct?
Yeah, it's all right saying last 2 years. Everybody's saying last 2 years. He's been injured for 18 months.
But don't you think it's really funny how, because now we've got a striker, Bamford's all of a sudden not getting injured now?
No, but how can he get injured when he's only 5 minutes?
But he's been sat on the bench the entire season, whereas he wasn't the last 2 seasons, and he was still getting started. You know, there was competition because Rodrigo was there, so there was competition last year, but he still wasn't, you know, he still couldn't be there.
But he played at 70% fitness, all because Rodrigo was out.
But
you know what? I'm a big admirer of what Patrick Bamford, Danny. You know that I've always said I'd like to see Patrick Bamford start. Truth be told, he got 30 minutes yesterday.
He didn't do a lot.
And I'll be the first one to say to you, I was very disappointed. I didn't think he offered us anything.
He didn't do a lot yesterday, but when they're not playing the balls into the box, what can he do?
I totally get that, Danny, and I do. But for me, yesterday, he got half an hour. He should be giving a lot more than he gave for me. I will give the credit and the thing to everybody. He has had a tough ride of it, don't get me wrong. And he hasn't come on in many games and played more than 10 minutes. But yesterday was his chance to shine, and he didn't for me.
He made runs yesterday that they just couldn't find him. The balls were either too late.
Yeah.
Or they were
I agree with that, Danny. I don't dispute what you're saying with the passes in it and stuff like that. I think you're right, but I think for me, I know what you're saying, we're playing the balls quicker, but he should not be offside. Whether or not that ball, it's basic football for me. And I think we'll all have his own twist on Patrick Bamford. I think it's time for him to go for me now. I think
he's too divisive in the fan base now for me for him to actually, A, he's not doing anything on the pitch, and B, he causes drama in the fan base and
But it's only
we need to be united, and he does not make us united. And as well, the other day when we won 4-0, he walked straight down the tunnel, and for me that's unforgivable to do that. When your team's absolutely annihilated a team, you go around that pitch and you clap everybody, because regardless, you were still on the pitch when they won. And he didn't, and he went straight down the tunnel, and that is a bad attitude. And if that's what he's willing to show us on the outside, what is his attitude like behind the scenes when nobody can see him? And that's, for me, that's nah. You're a bad seed if you're doing that.
You see, all right then. If that, so Nonto's done that a few times, gone straight down the tunnel.
The context behind that is different because of the fact that he was a 19-year-old lad who probably feels a little bit embarrassed by the fact that he behaved like a child at the beginning of the season. He behaved despicably, and I agree with that. Like, it would be false if he went round and started clapping straight away without eating a bit of humble pie and just thinking, I've done my job on the pitch, I'm now going to go. For me, that would be fake. So he's waited, he's earned a bit of trust. We're now wanting him to actually play. So for me, he can now go and stand on that pitch and celebrate, whereas before it would have been fake. I'd have been like, why are you clapping? You wanted to leave us last week, so don't bother, get lost, please leave, because we don't want you right now, we haven't forgiven you right now. Whereas he has looked more lively than Bamford, and Bamford has been given long enough now. We're not a charity. I know what you said, that he's been playing at 70% fitness, but we're a football club. We're not a charity. If we have players that are 70% fit, don't play them at all.
Mm-hmm.
But he now miraculously is fit. And for me, that's a little bit on the nose, because if you can get fit because all of a sudden there's a number 9 available, why couldn't you get fit last season? He's just too injury prone for us now, and he's 30, so he's not going to get any better. The laws of statistics and averages say that he's going to get worse because he's aging as well. So he doesn't have time on his side. He's wound the fan base up. He cups his ears when he scores, and I just think, no, be a bit humble. He took the penalty ball when he hasn't scored a penalty. He hasn't been in a game in the league where we've won and scored, and we've gone on to win the game since 2021. So you don't go cupping your ears to the crowd when you haven't actually contributed 3 points to a game for 3 seasons.
Right, so I'm going to counter that now, right? So you're saying you can't score this, not done that. Like I said, he was 70% fitness before he got playing. Right? That was down from Jesse Marsh. That was down here.
Sorry, I can't hear you. There's loads of echo on it.
Right, so you're saying don't play Bamford 70% fitness. That's down to Jesse Marsh. Nobody else.
All right, so whose choice was it to take the penalty?
Take the penalty where? Which game?
At the Stoke game, at the Arsenal game, at the Newcastle game.
Right, well,
Nobody forced him to take those penalties, did they?
Yes, but nobody else stepped up to take them, though, did they?
That is true.
Somerville did.
No, Somerville didn't.
Somerville did at the Stoke game. He did.
No, he wanted it, but he didn't ask for it. You can't just stand there and go, well, you need to ask. He didn't ask.
He took the ball, and that's where this whole age. What do we call it? The leadership group from last year. That's where all of this comes into play. And he's not a leader. He should never have ever been able to wear the captain's armband. So,
right, so why didn't you captain? Why didn't you just say no? Well, someone was having it.
Because of the fact that there's a leadership group and he's still finding his legs as a captain. I agree with you. He should have done. He should have taken it off him. But I think there's still a lot of the negativity from last season that crept in that game when we're playing rubbish. A lot of the players who were here last season go into PTSD mode. So I think that Bamford knew that as well.
The Arsenal won, the Newcastle won. Nobody else stepped up for him, did they?
There was other people that could have taken it, and if you're a striker, no, but if you know that you haven't scored, then that's where side before self comes in my opinion. If you say, look, you have a chat with people and say, look, I'll take it if nobody else wants to take it, but I don't think I'm the right man. I haven't had the fitness in my legs to score for the last year, so maybe somebody else should. Then, if nobody else will do it, but they didn't have that group conversation. He took the ball on both of those occasions. And if a striker takes a ball, you're going to assume that he knows that he's going to score it, just like Somerville took the ball off Pirro because he's on hot form, so he knew he was going to score it. If Bamford takes the ball off Pirro, you're not going to have that, are you? Because one striker's in form and the other's not.
So you're telling me then at Stoke, Somerville took the ball, bearing in mind he wasn't as in form as what he was then. What guarantees you Somerville's going to score?
No guarantees that you just
because there isn't a guarantee, but there's a guarantee that the crowd wouldn't get on Somerville's back, whereas they did get on Bamford's back.
But that's wrong, isn't it? Because
say that again.
But why, if he's missing a penalty?
Because Somerville has scored this season, and Somerville has scored game-winning goals in the last 2 years. Bamford hasn't.
Oh, this is what I'm saying. Bamford hasn't. He's been injured 18 games of it. He can't score when he's injured.
Then why don't you have a discussion with the club? If you're being paid £70,000 a week, why don't you have a discussion with the club and saying my fitness isn't improving, so maybe I need to take a step aside?
That's down to the club, isn't it? That's not.
No, that's down to the player as well, not just the club.
No, it is. It's not saying, oh, well, he's been in the doctors. He's fit, this and that. If he's that bad, the doctors are saying, no, get rid of him.
But nobody's going to take him.
If he's contract, he'll have to go find me. Terminate contract, but because the saying he's fine, that's why he's still here.
No, because they're not going to terminate his contract because they'd have to pay him Premier League wages for 5 years, which would massively impact profit and sustainability.
He's only got 2.5 years left, so they're not paying Premier League contract for 5 years. He's only got 2.5 years left.
Divides opinions, should we say the least.
Yeah, and that's my point. That's why I don't think he should be here anymore, because he divides opinions so much, and you can't get behind him because of the fact that he divides it so much, and he never looks interested. And you can be cocky and look uninterested if you're scoring goals. If you come on and you look like you don't want to be there, and then you don't score goals, and you're the probably one of the highest paid out of the entire team, getting very little minutes because you offer very little anymore. Mm-hmm. How is that going to influence the team dressing room?
What's Bamford on that week? Is it 70 grand a week, Bamford's on?
No, he's on 35.
Not now. He was on 35.
Right, so say 35,000 £35,000 a week. Mm-hmm. Times that by 52. Times that by another 2, and then 20. Then times that by 26 weeks. It would cost us something like £3 million or something.
No, because
actually get him out of his contract.
If we get him out of his contract, they would have to pay him at the 70 grand a week, not the 35.
Right. So it'd be a lot more than. That's why, it'd be a lot more than that. Wow.
This is why I'm saying, and then reason I don't want. To be honest with you, I don't want Bamford in this team, but I stick up for him because everybody's saying because of him we got relegated. Because of him we got relegated. No, it wasn't. There was 11 people on that pitch.
it wasn't just because of him they got relegated as a team, and I agree with that. I think he divides opinions a lot for me now, and I think the problem with Bamford is he's on such a high wage category that there'll be very few teams interested in him. And two, he's not played much football, and he's not really done anything for a team to come in and say, "Oh, we'll take a punt on him, and we'll get him off your wage." But that's the issue with Leeds at the minute. Is I don't think he'll go in January. If anything, I think it'll be a summer move for him if he does go.
I don't even think he goes in summer. I think he's in contract down here.
Maybe because he's on high wages, and that's.
I agree, Danny. I think he stays here because I think Leeds negotiated at a point where his stock was at its highest. He should have been sold. I think there was interest at Spurs at that point at the end of the 2021 season. You imagine if we'd have just sold him then, we'd have got a fortune, and we'd have been able to buy decent players for Bielsa in that summer. And then, maybe we're not even here in this. And I'm not saying it's all Bamford's fault, by the way. I'm really, really not. I'm just saying that the previous ownership, was crap.
I don't want Bamford in this team at all. The reason why I cut for him is because when he missed that goal at Leicester, he missed that goal at Newcastle. Nobody won't. They're still going different.
No, I get that. What you can't ever actually look at is how the mentality changes. We get a draw against Arsenal in that game in the first half of the season last year. What happens if we keep it at a draw at Palace? What happens if we get the win at Newcastle? All of these things you can't judge because you can only see the statistics afterwards. But we all know what a good mentality, and we've seen yesterday what a bad mentality does to a team. So if we have a good mentality going in, maybe we get a draw against City. They only won 2-1. We didn't play bad in that game. What if we beat Newcastle? We were the better team in that game. What if all of these things have a knock-on effect? So what if Bamford scores that goal? He is then also on a massive high because he could have helped us save that season. So maybe then, because he scores that Leicester goal, he then scores that penalty at Newcastle. So all of these things, if he did one thing right earlier on in the season, they could have had a positive knock-on effect, and then he would have been the hero. But instead, because he didn't show up, because he didn't do those things, it is very easy for a fan base to turn on an individual. And I get that he wasn't the reason why we went down, but he also wasn't the reason why we stayed up either. So therefore, we have Leeds fans and football fans in general have a very we like to look on the negative side, because negative headlines just across the world, whether you're talking football, news, anything, negative headlines get hits. So negative headlines are what get clicks. Negative headlines are unfortunately what makes the media go round. If everything was good and everything was sweet and rosy, it wouldn't be as dramatic. Everybody watched the Burnley Newcastle game and the Leeds Brentford game, and because of the fact that there were still two teams that were on a knife edge that could go down, and one of them was Leeds. And would it have meant that Bielsa's legacy would have been thrown in the bin had we have gone down that season? And it was the same this year. That Everton, there were so many different permutations that meant that we could stay up, we could go down, Everton could go down, Leicester could stay up, we could go down with Everton, Leicester and Everton could both go down. There were so many different ways that last day of the season could go, which is what people then cling to. If Bamford had have scored that goal, if Meslier hadn't have conceded that goal, all of these things, we cling on to those moments. So yeah, you're completely right, Danny. It was not Bamford's fault. It was the team's fault. It was the club's fault. It was the management's fault. It was everybody's fault that we got relegated. But you remember those, you screenshot those moments of Bamford missing, you screenshot those moments of Rodrigo being injured because he brought, Jesse March brought him on in, what was it Accrington that he brought him on, and he got injured, and then he missed he missed 5 games or something like that because of it. So if Rodrigo doesn't go, get injured in that game, we don't lose the following games. So it's unfortunate, but this is what, like Jess was saying, that he's just a divisive person, and too many of the fan base have turned on him. That now means that unless he starts scoring goals for fun, and he's just not doing that. And we don't have, I've said it before and I'll say it again, on the bench, we don't have game changers to come on. All of our game changers are on the pitch. And this is what I was having a bit of an argument about the other day, is the fact that, people were listing players that, Somerville, Nonto, not Nonto so much, but Rutter. But they start, Anthony isn't hasn't really been a game changer. I didn't think he played badly last night, but he didn't play great. He just played slightly less worse than other people.
So when I say this and this about Bamford, I don't want him starting at all. I don't want him at the club. Because of all the other fan base threat him, is the reason why I'm sticking up for him.
And
I get it.
I admire that, that you do that, because you lead through and through. And, maybe a lot of Leeds fans should have took that, but he's so divisive in a lot of people, or a lot of fans that I speak to, that maybe it's time that they gave, he moved on from Leeds United. Whether, I do believe what he's saying, right, Daniel, he'll stay at Leeds, these contracts out, because why wouldn't he? We've seen it with Premiership footballers that have done it, and we'll probably see it with Bamford. But, like, moving on from Bamford, do we see a busy transfer window for Leeds, or do we see a quiet one, maybe 1 or 2 loan players coming in? We'll start with you, Stu.
If you listen to what Daniel Falker says in his press conference, he says it's going to be a quiet January window. Mm-hmm. I'm in agreement with Eva. I think we'll use as 2 loan spots, and I do genuinely believe that'll be it. Unfortunately, now the worry I've got is, if we can't afford to be out of that playoff positions, and if we lose to Birmingham, which I hope to and pray that we don't, but will the board act as if to say, well, if we go down, just say if we get relegated, do we lose the likes of Somerville next season? And how much harder is it going to be without? Is it going to be harder next season than it is this season to get promoted? So the board they're in a difficult position at the moment. When we were third and we were chasing, it wasn't so bad. But now that we're sort of like, West Brom have caught up to us, I think they're going to panic. I really do. I think they might start panicking a little bit. And if they do start panicking a bit, what I don't want them to do is buy players what don't suit our system. I want them to have a proper strategy for January window. If that's bringing in 2 loan players, stick to it, stick by your guns, and go and hope for the best that we can get through it. But that's what I think. I think we're definitely going to fill us 2 loan players spots up. Oh, anything other than that, I'm not sure.
Danny?
No, I only think we get 1 player. And that's a left back. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the time to get them, sign them and get them over the line and get them into a medical transfer window be shut.
Evie?
I think we'll definitely use the 2 loan spots, because I think that they're not daft. They already have the wheels in motion. I think you'll find that this transfer window will be a lot quicker than the summer transfer window, because we don't have all of the loan rubbish to deal with, which we were dealing with right up until midnight on transfer deadline day. So I think this transfer window will be a lot easier in one respect. I think it'll be harder in another, because everybody knows what we need. So therefore we might be priced out of certain players, because everybody knows, we may end up paying over the odds for players if we were to buy them. The loans, I think, we'll sort out fairly easily, but I think they'll have to be incredibly shrewd when it comes to the purchase of any players. So I think we loan a left back, and I think that we maybe loan a central midfielder, with maybe purchasing a younger central midfielder at a lower cost, the one that's under the radar, because and maybe not for this season, maybe for next season, with a plan of, if we don't get promoted, this person can step up next season, but we're bringing them in this season under the radar, because then nobody else is watching and seeing what we're doing, kind of thing. So, but I do think that we will buy. I agree with Stu in the fact of, I think that they'll be nervous now, in terms of, we've dropped a lot of points very quickly in the last 5 games. The positive side of me is thinking, in a weird way, I never, ever, ever want us to lose or drop points, but maybe if we're going to drop points, this maybe was the best time to do it, because it's right before a transfer window. It shoves the problem in the 49ers' face to say, this is what we need. Look at us. We can't play this way. And maybe Farke's stubbornness is enhancing that point as well. By him not adapting, it kind of, again, forces their hand and says, if you don't buy me these players, I'm going to continue playing this way, and this is what's going to happen. Therefore, get me the players, and you will see the best side of my tactics.
But who said he's going to play these players?
I think he will, because I think even he's had a wake-up call. I think he made the wrong decision last night by swapping too many. I think he should have changed 3 instead of 5. I think Nonto was,
apart from Darlow and Cooper that had to come in, who would you have changed?
I would have taken Pirro out and put Nonto on, but I still would have kept Dan James on.
Yeah,
because for me, and I would have played. I'd have played either Nonto or Somerville in that number 10 role as well. Because both, I would love to be able to see Nonto in the middle, because we know Somerville can do the left. We know James can do the right. We know that Nonto prefers the left and isn't as good on the right, but can do it. So therefore, I would have met halfway and put him in the middle, because I would have liked to have seen him and Somerville link up a bit more. And obviously, when you're on each wing, it's harder. So I think that those would have been my changes. I don't disagree with him bringing Gruev in, because I would have I maybe would have done that, maybe taken Ampadu off at halftime, put Gruev on to get. I still think Gruev needs minutes, and I still feel bad for him. The fact that every game that he seems to be played in from the start, we do poorly, but I don't relate that to him. I relate that to the team as a whole, the fact that we're away, just the mentality. So I do feel sorry for Gruev there, but yeah, I would have made the 2 changes that were forced, plus Nonto in for Pirro to start, and then maybe if we're still drawing, or maybe we're 1-0 ahead, maybe you bring Pirro on to get us a second goal by playing slightly more direct or something. Get James in on the crosses, because he's relentless with crossing the ball in. And if you have somebody, I would have Pirro on for Nonto in the second half, with the caveat that Rutter plays the 10 and Pirro plays the number 9, so that there is always somebody in the box for Dan James's crosses. But yeah, I agree, Danny. He made too many changes last night.
Yeah, he made too many changes, but it's not the same Pirro on to play more. Every time he played at Swansea, and he only played in the 9, I think it was about 4 times at Swansea. Every time he played in the 9, He always come back to the edge of the box for the cutbacks. He never stayed in the box.
But if you're at the edge of the box and you've got somebody on the byline that's cutting the ball or, you know, crossing a really deep crossing, you then make that last minute run. That's fine because he would be in the exact right position. The problem is right now he's playing as a 10 and in our system, the 10 plays far deeper than in Swansea and he doesn't have that choice to that chance to be the main man. He's actually one of the main 4 men at the front, and I think that's one of the issues is he's not the showpiece anymore. He's one of a team. He's not the man at the team. He is one of the 4 main men at the team, and I don't think we're playing to his strengths. And I think that if you're not going to play to a player's strengths, why buy him? We shouldn't have wasted the money. I'm not saying he's a poor player, but we're playing him and making him look poor.
We wanted Cameron Archer to start with, and because we couldn't get Archer, they went for Perot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Do we see any outgoing guys? Anybody leaving?
Why don't we start Perot at left back? That's where we started his career.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Mm-hmm. Do we see any outgoings from Leeds United? Anybody?
I want a question about people are saying I don't loan out players. But how many use Brom?
Struggling to grasp what he said.
Right.
There's just a lot of echo.
Yeah. It don't. Evie, have you got headphones in?
Yeah, I've got headphones.
Try disconnecting them. And just leave them off. Hello. I don't know why it's echoing my side then.
Yeah, exactly.
No, what I was saying is, we loaned all these players out in the summer. I'm sure we've used all his loan spaces up to loan anybody else out, unless they're under 21.
Yeah, you're right.
So people saying loan Joffrey out, loan whatever out. If they're over 21, we can't.
Yeah.
Can you see us selling the likes of Joffrey and Pervader, Danny?
If I was going to sell out of anything, the Joffrey I'd sell. Because Joffrey don't know what position he wants to play.
Do we agree with some of these comments here? So we've got Daniel Farke's on for nice.
If he loses on Monday against Birmingham, then yeah.
Stu?
I don't. The problem is with him having a long contract. I don't think he's in any danger of being sacked. And to be fair, I don't think he should be sacked. I think all this, calling for Parker's head's a bit far fetched. It's reactive, and it's. We only said last week that these people who are calling for Daniel Farke's head is madness, because at the end of the day, Farke can only work with what he's got at the moment, and it's not like he's in his best 11. We've been complaining about him not changing it. So I don't know. I don't think he's on finance at the moment. No, definitely not.
Evie?
Evie muted.
Muted.
There we go. I don't think he'll get sacked. I think it would take a lot, because the thing is if we get, I think if he gets sacked, we have to go up. We just have to go up, because the amount of money that it would cost us to pay him off would ruin us. we'd have to sell even players that we maybe think might actually stay, even if we do stay another year in the Championship. We'd have to sell in order to get the money back that we're paying for Farke. We'd have to sell players that we didn't want to sell. We'd have to maybe sell Mateo Joseph. We'd have to sell players that aren't ready to be sold yet either, because we'd have to raise funds in order to pay that off and stay within the, is it 39 million over 3 years, the losses that you're allowed to make in the Championship. So I think if he was sacked, the good thing, if he was sacked, the players that Farke, say if he was sacked in February after the transfer window closes, because that's just a very Leeds thing to do, the players that he likes fit most systems. They're very adaptable. They're very talented players. His profile of players, his number 10, they would suit most other managers. Obviously, if you get a Jesse Marsch type manager, then no. But if you play 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, we have the players that can fit in those systems quite comfortably, and he would still be going to get after. He would be going and getting players that would fit his system.
Mm-hmm.
So if we did sack him, I don't think we would be in the same situation of being stuck with a load of players that don't fit another manager's system, like we were last year. And to a certain degree, like we were when Bielsa was sacked, because then those players didn't suit Jesse Marsch's system either. But Jesse Marsch's system didn't suit Jesse Marsch's system either. So I don't think they will, because I think financially that is so big of a risk. And with the points that we've dropped recently, we don't have a cushion. Like, for instance, say Maresca at Leicester or Ipswich's manager started losing loads and loads of games. They have such a cushion that even if they fell off a cliff, they're pretty much guaranteed playoffs anyway. Like, they have so much of a cushion, and they've played some of the harder teams. Like, they've played us twice, for instance, Ipswich, and they're 9 points ahead of Southampton with a better goal difference as well. And a goal difference, look at us and Southampton, for instance, we were only ahead of them on goal difference, and then we started losing games. So goal difference can count for a place in the league. So I think he stays regardless of whether we go up this season, and I think it would have to be 4-5 games on the trot that we lost in order for him to be sacked, because the financial implications of us sacking him and not getting up are massive. It's bigger for me. The financial implications of us doing both of those things is far worse than us just not going up at all but still keeping Farke. I think that as well, we still have enough that we would still have enough team of a good squad and a good manager that we would be attractive in the summer, even without Somerville, Pirro. We'd keep Pirro, but Somerville, Nonto, etc. If they left, we would still be attractive enough to get younger players. May not get the best like we have done this season, but we would have enough, and hopefully he would then have to develop younger players, because he did it at Norwich. He developed younger players at Norwich, so he can do it. It just seems like maybe the pressure of getting us up first season is too much for him, that he feels that it's too much for him to put that trust in the younger players like he did at Norwich.
I agree.
At the end of the day, he didn't get up first try, did he? He was there a season, and they were, what did they get, like 12th or something the first season, and then won it the following?
They finished 14th and then
14th.
Yeah, and then won it, and then won it again.
Yeah,
I agree. Is he maximising his full potential in that squad?
No,
I don't. So,
Danny?
what potential is in the squad. There's only probably a couple of potential on subs bench, because I won't say Pervader's potential. He can have a good game here and there. Joseph, right? Everybody's argument stick Joseph in, right? He's done it with Gray. What they don't realise is Gray was brought into this first team at 15. All right, never played, but was brought in at 15 to get used to it. Joseph hasn't been.
No, so I get that that's a really good point. You're right. Obviously he was on the bench against Arsenal and for quite a few games that season under Bielsa.
Joseph hasn't been. So everything saying, "Oh, do this, do that." He's not ready in Joseph. He's all right. It's all right.
I still think he might be, because Somerville was at a similar point in his career when he started getting minutes off the bench, and that was in the Premier League rather than in the Championship. So if you're going to take a risk and maybe give a youngster minutes, it is in the Championship rather than the Premier League. So maybe he gains his confidence and his experience on the job, whereas Archie was able to sit and watch and train without really the proper pressure of ever being expected to come off the bench.
I agree with that.
Well, yeah, looking at that, maybe, but doing it in under 21s football is playing kids. It's not playing with men.
100%.
You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it. Is he ready to step up from playing with kids against men? You don't know. I still think he's a season away, Joe. I think one season away from
Yeah. Stu, do you think he's maximising what he's got in that squad, using it to his best abilities?
Not really, no. If I'm honest, but it's like what Danny says. Who can you maximise in that team? I mean, who can you really maximise to get the best out of them? And I think, like Danny says, Joseph isn't ready yet. Gray, we know all about Gray. I think Gray were unlucky last season in pre-season friendly when he got his injury in Australia. Otherwise, I think, so we know that Gray's got the capability of playing in Premier League, playing first team football, should I say. But no, I think, I don't know. I think he could squeeze a bit more out of him, if I'm honest.
I agree.
I really do, yeah, I do.
I think with the capability of the squad that we've got, and see, I think certain players in that team are still individual players for me. I just don't think there's certain games where they look like they play like a team, which like Ipswich they all look like, and then you get into games last two and they look very individual. You're putting too much on Cree's shoulders for a start. You can't just rely on one man to get you where you need to be. We all need to do a lot more, and they all do need to do a lot more. If they go into that game, whether or not we look at Monday as we should be winning this game, we are not. The only things for me is we're very consistent at home. That's a problem with Leeds this season. We haven't been consistent enough. We haven't been effective enough. We seem to go well for 15, 20 minutes, and if we don't score in that, we seem to lose ideas of where to go from it. And that has to change on Monday, because if we lose again on Monday, that crowd will be hostile and they will show the feelings to Daniel Farke. And I still believe he's the right man to get us up. But if we go and lose the next 3 games, people will be calling for his head and saying, look, I don't want him here anymore. So I will still stick with him till end of transfer window and see what Leeds United do bring in. And then we go from there. But if we get to February and we're sat, say, 8th or 9th, hopefully, and we're not, 10th maybe, people will be calling for his head and say, how can we go from being where we've gone to where we've dropped to? Southampton now 6 points in front of us. West Brom are right on his arses, 3 points behind us. We must win, for me, every game now. We can't afford any more slip-ups. And unfortunately,
we've had our season losses, basically.
Yeah,
we literally can't afford especially we can afford to lose a few more if our ambition is the playoffs, but we can't afford to lose any more if we have any sort of actual gumption about going for top 2. That's it. We're done. We're done for losses. We've already done all of our losses in the first half of the season, but the problem is that's unrealistic for this team.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen, and this is where I think that we have to make peace with the playoffs being the ambition for this year. It shouldn't have been. I agree. It shouldn't have been, because there was getting rid of August, because for me that's not an excuse anymore. We have lost more games in the last month than we had the previous 3 months. So August isn't an excuse anymore. It's done. Get over it.
That's it. We took August out of it, and we've still dropped 26 points. So you can't blame August and then October and December and November. August is out of the equation, and we've still dropped 26 points. So there's no more
in silly games as well. We've not even dropped points against Ipswich or Leicester. We've dropped points against teams that on paper we should be hammering. But like I always say, you don't play football on a piece of paper, you play it on a pitch. So
do you think if we hadn't have had a record that we've had in the home game, that 26 things there is relegation for them?
Exactly. Like Evie said, we're 15th in form, can't. It's not good enough. Just a quick one before we all leave. Score predictions for Monday. Stu?
Look, I'm going to go Leeds 2-1.
2-1. Done it?
1-0 Birmingham.
I hope you're not right, Danny. I really do.
It'll be a late goal. It won't surprise me. It's not a penalty again.
Evie?
I don't want to give it. I don't want to give a score prediction. I just don't want to do it. I think I agree with Stu. I think 2-1.
And I'm going to go 3-2 Leeds United. I just hope that the mentality of those players is addressed. I hope they turn up on Monday looking like they want to play a game of football, and they're not walking around scratching their asses and actually do something for 90 minutes. Because if not, it'll turn toxic very quick, and it's already turned.
We've only just got that atmosphere back to being okay. I'd literally said on the podcast the other day the fact that it hasn't been that raucous for like a year and a half, and to then have been, I feel sorry for those away fans to have been given those performances.
I apologise for it. Spent good money at Christmas time going to turn up to that shower of shit, and it has to be said, didn't even look bothered. And I apologise to those Leeds United fans, the 2,000 fans that actually went to that game, because to turn up and play like that it's not right. It's disgusting. It wasn't a good game, and West Brom got the tactics right. As soon as he changed it, and he got the founders out, and something has to give.
But the atmosphere at Ellen Road this season hasn't been as what it normally is.
No, that's what I mean. Is Ipswich is probably the first game where actually the atmosphere has been good from minute 1 to the end of the game. So I just think that Daniel hasn't done enough to put that to the test yet. Bielsa, it didn't go bad until right near the end, and by the end everybody was just sad. They weren't even angry. It was just sadness, because it was inevitable what was going to happen. The transfer window had closed. There was no other, you can't sack the players. So there was only going to be one option there. So it didn't even really turn toxic under Bielsa. And obviously Bielsa had done a lot more than Daniel Farke has. He hasn't got that much. He's got credit in the bank, but he doesn't have that much credit in the bank for the crowd not to turn on him.
Exactly. And that's what we all don't want. Hopefully we see a different sort of Leeds United turn up, and we can all hope for that, and hope that when we do another match review next week that we've all got a little bit more positive things to talk about, because at the minute none of us are very happy with the style of football, what's going on the pitch. Farke really does need to stop making excuses for me as well in his post-match conference, because I read that yesterday. He said they played very well and you were happy with it. I don't
Did
see
they
that.
are?
I don't see how as a manager you
No.
can say that. It wasn't a good performance. But we'll leave it on that note, guys. Thank you for joining us all. If you want to check Evie out, Discord of Peacocks, give her channel a subscribe and like her videos. Same with Stu on Disabled Team. Check him out, subscribe, like his channels. It's appreciated. And same for me. If you like this video, smash a like, get your comments in below, and we'll see you all again for the next one. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciated.
Take care.
Take care, guys.